Good morning. My name is Mr.Meshack, Kodiko, a teacher of biology. So I want to welcome you to our today's lesson where we are going to talk about a topic on reception, response, and coordination in plants and animals. So maybe just to begin, we have those structures that are involved in the detecting of changes that occur within an organism. So they may be located far away from the ones that respond to them, and for that reason, we find that there must be need to communicate between these parts so that appropriate coordination is brought about. So we are saying there is a need for a communication system within the body that coordinates these activities. So the nervous system and the endocrine system perform this function. So when I talk about the endocrine system, we have different types of hormones that are in the body that coordinate from the glands. We have the pituitary gland being the master gland, coordinate with other different types of glands to produce various types of hormones that bring about coordination in plants and animals. And again, we also have what we call the nervous system, which consists of the brain and the spinal cord. So that coordination is brought about by the two major systems, the nervous system and the endocrine system. That is linking the parts of the body that detect changes to those that respond to them. So we have said very well that these parts may be located in different regions. So we want to look at some of the terms that we use in this topic. Number one is what we are calling irritability. Irritability is defined as the ability of an organism to detect and respond appropriately to changes in their immediate environment. So we are saying that living organisms are capable of detecting changes in their internal and external environment. So if I talk about immediate environment, in this case, the environment may be internal or may be external. So these factors that are within these areas, organisms need to detect them and at the same time respond to them appropriately so that it brings about survival of these organisms. So this characteristic is called irritability and is of great survival value, that is survival value to that organism. We also want to look at what we call stimuli. When it is one, it can be one or they can be many. If it is one, then we call it a stimulus. So what is this thing that we are calling a stimulus? A stimulus is a change in the internal or an external environment to which an organism responds. Take for example, if we are having a stimulus which could be environmental, like in the case of light, how do you behave in different light intensities? Let's say in a dark room or in a bright room. So in that case, there's a way in which we behave or change. Then we also have the heat. Heat here could be too much heat or high temperature. How does an organism behave when there is too much high temperature or when there is low temperature? So there is a stimuli here, there. Then we also have the sound. We may have an abrupt noise. We can also have chemicals that can be stimulus. We can have the potential hydrogen concentration in a solution, what we are calling pH, difference in water. We have the food, oxygen, and other organisms. For example, other organisms here, if you happen to see a lion, just by seeing that lion, the eye is going to act as a receptor organ that is going to receive the stimulus. So the lion becomes the stimulus in your immediate environment, which is now external. So again, if we look at the stimulus is a change which you have said is in the external or external environment to which an organism responds. Examples include what I've just mentioned. So we want to look at that. We have seen what is irritability. We have seen the stimuli. Then number three now, because they go in order, is now response. What is a response? A response is any change shown by an organism in reaction to that stimulus. How does an organism respond? How does it behave as a result of a particular stimulus in that area. So the response involves movement of the whole organism or part of the body, either towards the stimulus or away from the stimulus. That now gives us two things here. An organism can move towards the stimulus, which we are going to term a positive response, or if it moves away from the stimulus, like I was talking about the lion. If you see a lion, you know very well, or you perceive that the lion is dangerous, and therefore an individual will run away from the lion. So the lion being the stimulus, then when you running away from the lion is a negative what? Response. So it also results in the secretion of substances, like for example, we have hormones or enzymes by glands. Taking for example, again, I'm still on the lion. When you see the lion, the eye sees the lion, then immediately a person will start running away. How do you run away? It means that there is a gland, which is the pituitary gland, which is going to trigger another gland called the adrenal gland, so that it produces the hormone called adrenaline. Then there is going to be increased supply of blood to the tissues. As a result, there is going to be buildup of energy, which is going to enable the organism to take on flight. So those are some of the responses, that ability, or maybe the changes that an organism undergoes. Then we have what we call coordination. All these activities we have talked about the two systems, either the nervous system or the endocrine system. So there must be different parts of the body are located in different areas. For that reason, there must be a means of communication between these two parts. So when I talk about coordination here, it means the working together of all the parts of the body to bring about appropriate responses to change in the environment. So how do you coordinate? How does the external environment coordinate with the internal environment plus the parts of the organism, so that an organism will respond appropriately and survive in that particular environment? So we are talking about the coordination where all parts of the body must communicate to bring about an appropriate change in the organism or in that immediate environment. Lastly, we are talking about reception. Reception here is the detection of changes in the environment through receptors. Those parts of the organism that receive. Taking for example, when somebody pinches you, then the part of the skin where this person pinches is the receptor. We call what we call receptor organs, which is having other things that we are going to see later on when we talk about the system. Now, reception is the detection. Are you having the ability to detect the changes? Now, those parts of the body that detect the changes is what we are calling receptors. So maybe just to go back to what we talked about in reception, we talked about the introductory part of it. We are saying that parts of the organisms need to detect the changes in their immediate environment so that they can respond appropriately. So there's need for communication for these different parts of the body, so which is coordinated by two systems, either the nervous system and the endocrine system, which links these other parts of the body to bring about changes that make an organism respond appropriately. So we've talked about irritability, and we have said this ability of an organism to detect the changes in their immediate environment, whether internal or external, so that they bring about the survival value of that organism. Then we have what we call the stimulus, where I said the stimulus is the change in the internal or external environment which an organism responds to. So we have talked about the external and the internal ones, which include light, heat, sound, chemicals, pH, water, food, oxygen, and even the other organisms can also bring about change. Let's look at response. Response, I've said, is that any change that is shown by an organism. How does the organism react to this stimulus? It could be that organism is reacting away from the stimulus or towards the stimulus. So it is away from, we term that one negative response. If it is towards the stimulus, then we term that a positive response. And it can also result in the secretion of some useful substances like the enzymes and even the hormones to suit the operations of a particular area. We've talked about coordination, which I've said is just the working together of all parts of the body to bring about an appropriate change of an organism. Then there are those parts of the body that receive the stimulus, and we are calling those parts receptors. So reception is the detection of changes in the environment through receptors. Thank you very much for listening to our lesson of today.